just letting the wind take you. It's like I don't know how to describe flying. It's honestly a feeling of just having this superpower, the wind 20 meters above you, anchored to the kite, is like a powerhouse that you have attached to you. And it is like a mainline shot of cocaine to the nervous system.
Hello, hello, hello everyone. I am Ayush and welcome to the Adventure Hub podcast. Here we talk about different extreme sports, adventure sports, and everything around it. We chat with one of the most awesome, experienced, and skilled professionals of different sports who share their stories, their experiences, and the entire scene of the sport in India. So, if you're someone who likes adventure sports in general or want to get proper information, then this series is for you, my friend. So today we have a very awesome and special guest whose name is Ishan Roy. He has a very special story to share with you guys, and he's been into scuba diving, surfing, kite surfing, and even sailing. So I request you guys to watch the entire podcast, and it will be a really great experience. You'll get to learn a lot of things, and you'll get inspired for sure. So, if you haven't joined the community yet, then links are down in the description. Do join our Discord community. And if you like the video, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and comment down your opinions below. So, without wasting any time, let's get started. Okay, so let me introduce you once again. So, today we have a very special guest with us who is a very fun loving guy, a true adventurer, a sailor, and also one of the few finest kite surfers in India. So, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Ishan Roy. Hey Ishan, what's up?
Hey Ash, thank you so much for that intro. Uh, it's not good for my humility, but anyway, it's all going well. Hope you guys are doing well. Things are pretty intense around everywhere, so I hope everyone's keeping safe and keeping healthy and doing well. I'm trying to do the same over here,
Yeah,
and
sure, sure. That's
a
great.
bit
That's
of
great.
time on the water here and there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so before we get into the questions, Ishan, let me um, ask you to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about yourself to the people who are listening you for the first time.
Uh, okay, I'll try to keep this brief. Otherwise, I start talking too much. So basically, I was just a very regular college going student until 2015. And then that was the time when all my friends were starting to apply for jobs and their masters, and I just realized it's something that I never saw myself doing. I couldn't imagine myself, sitting at the desk and living like that. So I booked a one-way ticket to the Andamans the day of my last exam, and that was 2015, and now it's 2021. So I guess something worked out because I've managed to keep it up until now. Uh, Basically, I started out in the Andamans right after college. I started with diving, so I went and I did my dive master course. I've done about 500 dives now, and after that, I moved to Pondi and I got into sailing, and um, that continued for about 2 years, and then around 2017, I met Arjun from Aqua Outback, and I met Dylan from Bombay. And if you know anything about the kite surfing scene in India, it is very small. It is super, super small. And being related with wind sports and so on, as soon as I met these guys, the first thing we did was to get onto the water and start flying kites. When kite surfing came in, and I've been doing this now in total about 4 5 years. and it's honestly it's, like I couldn't have imagined a more peaceful way to spend my time.
Okay, okay. That's a beautiful story. Really, really inspiring for people who are outdoor going. Okay, so let's get to the questions now. So the first question I want to ask you is what exactly is kite surfing? Because people confuse the term with many other sports as well. So what exactly is kite surfing?
Okay, so the first distinction that I would make over here is that Kite, kite surfing uh, is 50% a water sport. It is 50% also a wind sport. As important as the water is, so is the wind. In fact, more. I would say it's 80% or even 90% a wind sport, and maybe just 20% a water sport. So, um, what's happened now to uh, the beginning of when we started sailing, and when we started harnessing the wind, we have slowly been able to, with better R&D, with better design, use smaller and more efficient builds and designs to sort of get efficient with our scaling, get faster. And as progression went slowly from sailing the old tall ships, we have arrived now at what is basically the most cutting edge of wind sport, which is kite surfing. Because what essentially is happening is you have to imagine a balloon in the air, a kite, attached to four lines that run down 20 meters from the sky and clip onto you. So you are entirely clipped into this kite that is sky, which is being pulled by the wind. And what you're doing is utilizing this wind energy to go in whichever direction that you want to and do tricks and do jumps and ride freestyle. So kite surfing that way is the most advanced form of wind sport, or most advanced form of wind sport that we have discover so far, or the latest discovery. It's a very new sport. It's a very new community, and that just makes the whole thing extremely exciting because, like I said before, it's a very small community. It's in the nascent stages of picking up. So that's where we are with kite surfing right now, and that's what kite surfing is. To put that more briefly, I would say it's just, having a direct line with the wind and just letting the wind take you. It's like, I don't know how to describe flying. Maybe you guys can help me out. It's like, it feels a bit like you're Superman.
Yeah, this is the best question to ask a small kid. What is flying?
Exactly.
Okay, so I was reading a bit about kite surfing and I saw that you can do that on the snow as well.
Exactly. So this is why the first thing I said about kite surfing is that it is a wind sport. And because it is so new, we are discovering more and more ways to make use of it. So you can snow kites, which is one of the things that we're planning to do next season in Gulmarg, because what you get in these mountains is like very beautiful winds coming down the mountain, and you actually, in certain cases, don't even need to use the ski lift anymore. You can ride up the mountain. You can fly down the mountain because you see, when we jump on the water, it's flat surface, so you come down. But when you're on a mountain and there's a slope, you can fly for ages. So within kiting, there's a lot of different disciplines like that. So there's snow kiting, then there is kiting on the water, of course, and then there is also land kiting where you can literally use a skateboard or a longboard and use a kite and do some pretty fun stuff, tricks and so on. Of course, kiting on water is the most forgiving because you don't break your bones if you fall, and you will fall. But that's what keeps the sport so interesting. It's the fact that because it is a wind sport, so it is possible to do it in places where there is wind, and if you have the right kind of equipment. And in that sense, snow kiting is a really, really, really interesting area that is very it's not been explored as much at all, and that's something like for us as kite surfers, starting out in this country, it's the most exciting prospect right now to go shred some powder in Gulmarg with the skiers, maybe do some jumps over them. Shh, don't tell.
Yeah.
But that's all the possibilities with kite surfing. So that's the beauty of it being a wind sport.
Yeah, sure, sure. I could imagine flying over a mountain on a surfboard with a kite on your hands. That's a really
It's
really good.
something, huh? It's a beautiful sight.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so I wanted to ask you, how did kite surfing start in India? What is the history behind it? And are you the first generation of the kite surfers in India?
Okay, so this is a slightly uh there's a slightly long answer to this. Kite surfing started as all things in India, adventure sports wise, in a fractured way, a little bit over here, a little bit over there. So, one thing to know before I speak any further is that between between Rameshwaram and Kanyakumari in India is the Gulf of Mannar. And because of the way that the Indian landmass is in relation to Sri Lanka, we get winds majorly from two directions. We get either southwesterlies or we get northeasterlies. So what happens is that every time that this wind comes down to between India and Sri Lanka, it gets pushed into a funnel and it gets exaggerated. So what we get off of this is between Rameshwaram to Kanyakumari, we are in the middle of a wind tunnel, which is always pumping. So this is something that's a well-known fact because 100 miles from Tuticorin is Kalpatia, which is one of the biggest kite spots in the world. And we're sitting just on the other side of the pond with the exact same conditions, if not better, because there's fewer kites here in the water. And this is something that a lot of people figured out, So there were a few foreign kiters that came at some point to Manapad, and there were uh, they were there on the beach with their kites, and uh, that's when some of us from the kiting community got to know them, and it started like we got an idea of, hey, that's what is that? It was the first time we saw anyone in the water with a kite. Um, Doing jumps and tricks and things like that. So, for your second question, I would say that I am not the first generation of fighter because I would consider myself second generation. For me, the first generation of fighters were the ones who were standing on that beach when these people were kiting, and asking them about what they were doing and actually sourcing the equipment, going for it, and making it happen. And in that, and I would put Arjun from Tuticorin, Aqua Outback, Jehan from Rameshwaram, from Quest Academy, and Philippe from Goa. I would club these three guys together as the first generation of kiters in India because these were the guys who went and saw this and then brought it back. I'm from the second generation of kiters where I was sailing and I happened to land up on a beach where I also saw a kite in the water, but it was Arjun. And that's how I actually met him, and that's how I got into kiting. Now the thing with the difference between first and second gen is that when the first generation starts kiting, it takes a lot longer for simple progressions. It takes a lot longer to start riding. It takes a lot longer to land your first jump because you don't have a reference point. No one's been doing that before. So in that sense, I certainly feel like I'm uh, luckily in that second generation of kiters where these guys had had already figured a few things out, and then I was able to learn very quickly off the back of that.
Hmm.
Of course, before that, I was a bit occupied with sailing. So that is, and now we are slowly at this point where if you look at competitions and so on, our first generation of kiters are now in their 30s and 40s, and I'm already in my late 20s. So it gets interesting for the third and the fourth generation of kiters that are now going to come, because now we have had the exposure and the practice that is required to train kids who are 5, 6, or 7 years old to grow up to be the kids who can win the Red Bull King of the Air, or win like a freestyle competition, or win the GKA freestyle, or get selected into the Olympics and so on. So that is really that's really the structure and the story behind how kite surfing sort of came to India. It started as these few people going out and looking at uh, some people who were kite surfing and then saying, that looks interesting and it's windy where I live. So then, like, sourcing some equipment and bringing it back, and then sort of just standing and messing about on the beach for hours and hours. And that's how kite surfing really came to India. And the funny thing is that it's been about 8 years that people have been kite surfing in India, but really, there's just three centers where you can learn. There is barely any talk or infrastructure or any kind of um, tourism about it, or any kind of knowledge or interest about it. It just because of the fact that kite surfing is wind dependent, and wind is good only in a few places. It's we're pretty isolated in Tuticorin, so I feel like that's also one of the reasons why we don't see kiting as spread out as other sports, like surfing and so on. But anyway, I'm sorry, I'm rambling a bit. I'm going to pause myself there, but that's sort of the story of kite surfing and the first generation of kiters, and where I am at as the second gen, and then how we look at the progression of the third and fourth generation of kiters, because the whole point of this is to get better and better and better and keep pushing it at every single level.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that was a really, really great answer. Covered a lot of things and was very, very informative. So now I want to ask you that who inspired you to get into kite surfing, or was it by chance? Like you saw someone do that and you were like, "Oh, this looks cool," or you were like, "No, no, I have to do this and all." How what
Okay,
inspired you?
so this is where I hope you don't mind if our conversation gets a little informal.
Yeah, yeah, no, not a problem at all. This is an informal
Okay,
conversation.
so then let me ask you this. If you saw someone flying 20 feet in front of you with no machines, just wind through the air and doing cool tricks while flying,
Hmm.
would you not think, oh shit, I want to do that right now? And that's literally what it was. The first time I saw anyone kiting, the first time I saw Arjun kite.
Hmm.
That was it. It was done, because The beauty of kite surfing is firstly that it's entirely wind dependent. So you're not using any engines, you're not using, you're not making any excess sound. Secondly, it's the amount of control that you get. So, because of my small background in, like, it's not background, or my small forays into surfing and my little experience with it, I loved surfing in the beginning. I absolutely loved it. Um, but then, like, as I started kiting, it I felt like surfing wouldn't do that for me anymore, because there is this sense of total control in the freedom that you get from being able to go ride in any direction and jump in any direction that you want. And it's this feeling of it honestly a feeling of just having this superpower, the wind 20 meters above you, anchored to the kite, is like a powerhouse that you have attached to you. And it is like a mainline shot of cocaine to the nervous system. Once you feel this, once you feel the force of that wind take you up, when you do your first jump, it is something that I cannot even explain, because as you start jumping up, um, slowly, you hear, as you're riding, you hear the tat 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 tat, the sound of the board on the water. And then as you jump and you go up to 10 meters, so at 2, 3, 4, it starts getting silent, silent, silent. And then you're up at you're up 10 meters in the air, and there's not a single noise, and it's the most serene feeling one could possibly have. It the only way that the only feeling that I could say that even compares to being 30 feet up in the sky connected to a kite would be to be in the middle of the Pacific Ocean on a sailboat. It's that same level. It's almost that same level of freedom and that feeling. Um, so in that sense, I'm sorry I rambled on a bit again, but that's kind of the feeling that you get from kite surfing. It's really indescribable, and it is addictive. So if I mean, if you're an obsessive type, I would say stay away from kiting, because if you get into it, then you're never going to be able to let go. It's just a feeling of total freedom.
Okay, sure, sure. That answer really describes the love you have for kite surfing. Okay,
Yeah, I hope that didn't come across too strong. I was really, um, as I'm sitting here and chatting with you now, I'm in Goa, and the monsoons are coming, so there hasn't been much wind. So I haven't kited in a few weeks, and speaking to you about this, I'm actually like, thank God the video is not on, because for that last answer, I actually closed my eyes and I was just imagining jumping out on the water.
great, great, great. Okay, so now I want to ask you, like when you initially started out kite surfing, what were the biggest challenges that you were facing?
Okay, so I will answer this question for you in two ways. I will first give you my personal experience, and I will tell you what is the best way to go about this.
Sure,
So
sure.
from my personal experience, see, by the time I started kite surfing, I had already spent about 4 years in the water sports industry. And the water sports industry is a very beautiful place where it's the feeling of community is coming from a shared passion for, you know the elements, for it's coming from this understanding of how crazy we both are in our love of certain things. And in that sense, for me, it was really easy because once I met Arjun, as interested as I was in kite surfing, was as interested as he was in sailing. So for me, honestly, it was really easy to get into kite surfing because I just taught him how to sail and he taught me how to kite. And now he's sailed also a lot and I've kited also a lot. So for me, it was personally really easy being from the water sports industry. Now, I will answer that question as a total newbie who is looking at kite surfing because it can be very intimidating because you look at the equipment and there's so much stuff, and there is also a very real uh, danger of injuring yourself if you don't do things properly. So it gets a little bit tricky, and sadly, there isn't much data or even information online to help you understand how to go about your training. But the thing is, as a newbie, you have two options. You can either try to learn in India or you can try to learn outside of India. And of course, with the way things are right now, hopefully, when things improve, I'll also give a list of places that are really good to go from India because flights are cheap, stays cheap, and the conditions are great. But within India, the best spots to kite are Rameshwaram and Tuticorin because, as I said before, it lies within that wind channel where winds are always pumping. And the good thing is that although it is an expensive sport, there is no two ways about that. Rig for a beginner, if you want to buy the whole setup, is going to cost you anywhere from 80K to 1 lakh, compared to surfing where you can get a board for like 10 to 20K, a beginner board. Here, a beginner setup on a kite is going to cost you anywhere from 80 to 1 lakh. So it is an expensive sport, absolutely. And from my personal experience, I have found that the West Coast, Goa, Goa, Mangalore. These are the wind on the west coast is really not that great, first of all, and the courses are a bit more pricey this side. So, in India, if you're looking to go into kiting, there is honestly, if you're absolutely serious about it, um, I suggest writing to Rameshwaram or Tuticorin, to Quest Academy or Aqua Outback because they both have seasons at different times as well. So depending on when you have time, you might now hear is something that I'm only going to reveal on this Discord group, but what we used to do at Aqua was that, so if you look at it, it's kind of a pricey place. It's pretty expensive for, let's say, the adventure junkie like you or me to go and to go and stay a week and train for.
Hmm.
But that being said, we understood that, and that's why for kiters there is now a totally separate dorm that you can go and stay at, and you can do you can do your 1 week course for about 35 to 40,000, and that is really within India the best way to do it. To spend about that much, go there, get your food, get your stay, and get your kite lessons plus rentals, and spend the week in like a very uh, beautiful part of India. So within here, that's the best way to do it. And honestly, the conditions are best around there. It
And
Okay.
the best.
Was I telling you? Okay, so I'll just go over that quickly again. Doing it at if you're doing it in Tuticorin, you can expect to pay about 35 to 40 a week, and That includes your food stay, kite rentals, accommodation, and you have an instructor that will teach you. And this is honestly in India the best way to do it, whether you either go to Quest or go to Aqua, but be around the Gulf of Mannar or the Park Strait because that's where the best winds are. And outside of India, the best place would be either Sri Lanka, Kalpatia, once things open up, or Muene in Vietnam. Vietnam is again another really, really great spot, really big with the pros, and so is Kalpatia. These are also great places to go and buy secondhand gear. So when things get better, like you can learn in India and then go out for your first kite trip. And Vietnam and Sri Lanka are great options because you see so many kiters there. You see so much. You see so many new tricks and new styles of riding, and of course, it's a mecca for finding cheap secondhand gear. So that way, also Sri Lanka and Vietnam are both really cheap for food and accommodation. So these are really good ways to get into kiting, to at least learn perhaps in India if that's easier, and then go out, just like people do diving. So once you get into it and you can learn and you can kite, once you become an independent kiter, then you can start looking at destinations based on kiting, like Daha in Egypt will mean something else to you. Tarifa in Spain will mean something else to you because when you look at it now, you're going to look at it from an angle of, oh, there's amazing wind over there. So that's kind of a good way to look and think about it because it's not something that once you once you learn you'll want to forget, so um once you've learned, so then whenever you go on vacations and so on, it also becomes like another thing, just like dive travel. You pick out a spot because you go holiday in the Andamans and you do a few dives around there. So, the same way you can maybe you do a holiday in Sri Lanka and you do a few days of kiting around there. So it becomes kind of like that. And within India, these are the two best places to go and learn. And it's the best wind conditions. There are special prices for kiters, and there are kite surf instructors there. That's one of the problems in India. We do not have enough kite surf instructors, and it's a growing field. So I urge all people who are interested in kite surfing to really consider it as a career option, because unlike other adventure sports, let's say apart from maybe what's the wingsuit flying and like the niche ones. Um, Kite surfing is so new to India that we barely have about 4 or 5 instructors, and so many times we're really overworked, and there's a lot of students. So there's really a there's really a space for a lot of kite surf instructors to grow and um, help build the scene from the ground up. So that's also an interesting way to think about it career wise, if not as a travel thing.
Yeah, 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 sure. Okay, so this question basically answers all the queries a newbie might have about kite surfing.
I hope so.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so um, I would like to ask you, where would you like to take this hobby of yours? Do you want to get into competitively or want to get into business related to kite surfing? Like, where do you want to take this further?
So that there's that's again another two-part answer. Sorry. So basically, right now, competitively, kite surfing is now an Olympic sport. So sadly, because of COVID, our first competition, which was a ranking event, got delayed. It was supposed to happen in Goa on the 26th of April, but because of the situation with COVID, it was called off. So this was supposed to be the first ranking event in kite surfing in India, and this would be the this would be where they pick their preliminary team for the Asian Games, and then further for the Olympics. So that competitive anger is there, and it is big. I won't lie to you, it is big. Amongst us, we are like brothers, um, but we want to do better than each other. Like I love Arjun and I love Dylan and I love Jehan, but we all want to do better than each other, and it's great. It's healthy competition because we're all we get super amped when we see our buddy on the water pull a new trick, and it's as exciting for us as it is for them, and it also gives competition is pretty important because it keeps you sharp as well. So that way we're all also always a little hungry. There's always that desire to push it a little more, and nothing brings that out like competition, of course. So that competition is definitely a big part of it. And when the next ranking event happens, you can be sure that all of us will be taking part in it, and it'll be a fun one to watch. That being said, it is also unfair to overlook the fact that you know we are not in our teens anymore, and uh, we're not that young anymore, because you see the world champion in kiting for the last 2 years was a girl called Michele Sol, who won it for the first time when she was 13 years old. And we are talking now about a level where kids are starting to kite at the age of 5 or 6.
Oh,
And this is the other side of it. There is the competition part of it, which we will most definitely be a part of and take part in, but also as a privilege of where we are right now, a big privilege of where we are right now is to be able to now easily impart this knowledge and or this skill to kids who are 4 or 5, and pick our groms and pick kids to train, to get them ready. Because for us, this is something we found when we were 19, or when we found it, we were 22 already. It took that long to find it.
hmm.
But now that it has been found, it can be given and shown to kids early on. So that is also one of the most important things, I believe. And this is where a lot of a lot of the other aspects of kite surfing come in, because I'm sure as I'm sure that it's a worrying debate, but fishing is really one of the big problems in the world right now, and coming from a sailing background, it's very easy to is very easy to tell that the plight of the fisherman is not improving. It's uh, it's getting harder. It's getting tougher, and there aren't as many fish in the sea as there used to be. So, in that sense, kite surfing also provides an alternative to kids who are from backgrounds that allow them to be more comfortable in the water. The fishermen's kids are the most athletic kids, and they're really good with kite surfing and surfing. And if you look at Mahabs and Kovalam, to me that is a success story, because that like the way that surfing has transformed those villages from being purely fishing villages to being surfing villages is beautiful, because it's that many people that aren't going out fishing and are instead going out surfing and actually making a living off that, and doing well. So In terms of the future of kite surfing, I like the immediate in the immediate future, I see competition in terms of these events that are going to happen. I see training that I have to give to kids, and we have already started this. Um, we have about 6 or 7 kids that are between 4 to 12 years old that are already on trainer kites and doing pretty well, which is really beautiful to see. And then in terms of also, I don't see myself personally as a businessman, but I feel like kite surfing as a business is a better way to um, utilize resources or is a better way to earn your income, or at least uh, a less harmful way to earn your income as a fisherman living in an area where the fishing isn't as good as it used to be, and now you have to go 150 miles offshore to find fish, and that's dangerous. And it is an alternative to that. And in that sense, I feel like the whole stretch from Rameshwaram all the way down to Kanyakumari is very, very um, it's very rural and it's beautiful. But there's so much that the people over there have in terms of resources, in terms of wind. And I know for a fact that the moment we get the first generation of fishermen's kids into kite surfing, they'll start seeing the possibilities that arrive with the sport. And I don't have any business plans, but I have a I have a daydream or a vision that the way Mahabs and Kovalam have become surfing villages, like that we'll have a generation of kite surfers that are, from the fishing villages around the windiest spots in India. Kanyakumari is the Cape of India, is the windiest spots, and kids who are growing up over there. If I just think it would be, I think they would be the best kite surfers of India. So to get this sport to have that reach is one of my future goals as well.
Yeah, yeah. That is the same mission we are working on spreading out the word for different adventure sports across India. And
Absolutely.
that is a wonderful and a lovely idea to see new generation of kite surfers on the beach. Okay.
Absolutely. The torch has to be passed down. We can't be holding it on forever.
Yeah, yeah, sure. And now I want to ask you, how long does it take to get good at kite surfing? Like how many sessions do you need? Or is it can be learned easily for in like a week or two? Or is it a hard sport to learn?
Okay, so the rule of thumb answer to your question is that the basic kite surfing course will take you 10 hours to learn. Now, depending on how comfortable you are in the water, how much of how aware you are of the wind. See, the main thing in kite surfing is wind awareness. So, for a lot of us, that is something we never think of. We never think about where the wind is blowing from. So, that takes a little bit of getting used to. But people who have an idea, who have a good awareness of the wind, can take 3 hours or 4 hours to start kite surfing. And then some people struggle a little more. There's no set uh, there's no set timeline. Everyone has a different pace of learning, but what we have seen is that 10 hours of kiting usually broken down in, let's say, a week or a week and a half, is the sweet spot. At the end of those 10 hours, 85% of the people will be kiting. It's not as hard, because uh, when you compare it to a sport like, say, surfing, because I use surfing as an example because I feel like that is one of the most popular water sports that most people will have an idea about. So when you go out and surf, you are paddling and paddling, and it's a workout. It's really heavy on the arms, but here what you do in kite surfing is that you let the wind do the work. So as soon as you understand how it works, you aren't really exerting anything. So in that sense, it's a very peaceful sport also, if you know what you're doing, because people who are 65, 70 are also kiting. So that it's not it's not uh it's not an unattainable skill. It is very, very, very much attainable. In fact, it is easy. And what makes the process of learning it easy is that from the moment you start, it does not matter what level you are at, but there will always be small progressions that you can make, which will which you will enjoy doing and which will make you a better kiter. So really, once you start writing, after that, it's just a question of doing it more. And by that, as soon as you start writing, you're already just looking up videos on YouTube because you want to learn the next trick, and it gets really, really addictive like that again. But honestly, it is not that hard. It is super, super easy. I would say that it's easier than surfing also. But the only thing one has to be mindful about is the wind awareness. In fact, whoever's listening and or whoever's listening in the future, the next time you find yourself in a windy spot, I want just do do this, okay? Just close your eyes and do a 300 and keep your arms down and do a 360-degree turn very slowly. And then there will be a point where you will hear the wind on both your earlobes. You might hear it on one, so keep turning and you'll hear it on both. When you hear it on both, you stop and you lift both your arms up. And that is the wind window. That is where the wind is coming, roughly. So that is one way to, just start becoming a little bit more aware about the wind, because it's invisible. We feel it, but we don't acknowledge it always. So it's also really beautiful that way, because it always feels pleasant, but then when you harness it, the things that are possible are just limitless. And that's what keeps it so exciting, and that's why you never like, it's a battle that you want to keep fighting and keep getting better. So really, if for anyone curious about it or interested in it, just jump in with both feet, just dive in. It's going to be the best feeling you've ever had, and it's going to be worth it, even if you have a few face plants. We all go through that.
Hmm. Right, right. The field experiment sounds very, very beautiful and interesting to do. I'll surely try it out. Everyone should. It will be a mesmerizing experience for sure. Uh, okay, so according to you, Ishan, what
Hmm.
can be done to grow this sport in India? Like, is it the responsibility of the government or the people who are into it right now? Are they responsible for its growth? And what can be done to ignite the growth of the sport in India?
Okay, so this is a really hard question because I feel like, firstly, the people who are right now stewarding and shepherding the sport are doing as much as is possible in their independent realms. But I feel like now, uh, since kite surfing has become an Olympic sport, and it's really starting to get recognized uh, as a competitive sport, the government is starting to take notice. A little too late, but it is. So, kite surfing is now a part of the Yachting Association of India ranking events, and it is part of the boat sports of India. We have a kiting organization that we are slowly building up. However, um, this is now at a point where we definitely need help from the government to uh, push the sport, because at the moment just import on a set of kites is ridiculous. You pay about 40% on import if you order a set of kites. And just going back to what I was saying about sorry, just kind of sip of water. But going back to what I was saying about the community aspect of it and the possibilities with that, I think that that is something that tourism industries in different states really need to look at, because you have to at some point think about what is the least intrusive way to do things, um, what is the most peaceful way to do things. And we have all been to the beaches in Goa and the beaches in Thailand. And while it's really fun to, go on one of those banana boats, or one of those motor paragliders where the boat pulls you and you go up, um, you kind of you I think that one really has to start uh, taking a step back from those kinds of um, entertainments, because getting into a sport like kite surfing has not just kite surfing, and now I'm talking about all the adventure sports that there are. They getting into these sports that allow you such a close relation with nature, make you mindful of this planet that we're living on. You feel a sense of ownership, not just for your land, which is bound by the borders of your country, but just for all of it, the entire earth and the planet. You feel an ownership and a connect, and that's special and that's sacred. And I feel like we really need to see a move away from, you know, motored engine forms of entertainment and enjoyment, and rather start looking at what are the alternatives. And you have so many in terms of kite surfing, in terms of sailing, in terms of windsurfing. And I honestly think that this is where the tourism ministries of different states need to come in and look at what they have. Because let's look specifically at Tamil Nadu, because Tamil Nadu is right now in the unique position of being the state most blessed with wind. So it's really, I feel like they are in a and the funny thing is they don't even know about it, because it's about three or four of us kiting, but they have to somehow, it has to be brought to their consciousness or awareness that this is a beautiful playground for kite surfing. This is a mecca, a hotspot for kite surfers. And so many of the problems in terms of in terms of uh, the complaints by fishermen, uh, will have just a better outlet if they're allowed to, or they're allowed, or they're helped to explore this new sport. And of course, with as it is with any sport or anything, it is a form of it is a form of earning and livelihood and payments and making money. That's you can't be naive about it. That part exists, and if it does exist, then why not think and plan it critically and thoughtfully and move away from intrusive forms of enjoyment, which aren't really, they're like the they're like little shots of adrenaline that you get, but it does not compare to, and I'm sure everyone on this Discord group will agree with, the thrill of slacklining 200 and 200 meters above land, or like snowboarding on the hello.
Hello? Yeah, yeah, Ishan, you got
Oh,
disconnected for a while, I guess.
sorry. Where did I get disconnected?
You were talking about uh, the sports that are just like a shot of adrenaline, like
Okay.
scooter parasailing, and then
Yeah.
you were talking about consciousness that we should have towards earth and the nature as well while doing the sport.
Okay, so yeah, exactly. So just to summarize all of these things, I just feel like a move away from, motored forms of enjoyment and towards um, wind sports or water sports that don't use motors, kayaking, sailing, kite surfing. I honestly stand up paddling. I honestly feel like this is the way to move forward for tourism ministries, because it is, I just feel, a better and more fulfilling way of doing things.
Yeah, sure, I can definitely understand your point there. Okay, so Ishan, let me just ask you a final question. Then we'll open up for Q&As for the people who are listening to you. So the final question is, what are your future plans?
What are my future plans?
Yeah,
My future plans are to go kite in Kanyakumari and then go kite in Gulmarg. That'll be pretty cool. Go down south and then go up north.
great, great, great. That's really good. And I really wish to see you go up Gulmarg and do snow kiting over there. I really want that video.
Same, absolutely. I cannot wait. It's there. It's going to be done. Jan Feb is season time over there. I know now. So that'll be the time to take the kites and just go off.
Sure, sure. Even I am planning with Hemel to go and learn snowboard in the upcoming winter season.
Oh wow! So maybe you'll see us riding up the mountain.
Sure, sure. We'll catch you up there.
Amazing. Will you save some money on the ski lift though?
Nice, nice. Even we, even we can hang on to you and just go up.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, great, great.
100.
Okay, so now we are opening up the question session. So there are three questions right now from Random Heist. Please go ahead, unmute yourself and ask Ishan.
Yeah, Ishan. So first of all, the session was like pretty awesome. Like it added a new perspective about a sport that I didn't know a lot about. So my first question. So my first question to you is that, as you told, there are a lot of types of events, and they grade the participants. So actually, what are the bases? How do they grade? Is it on the basis of the tricks they perform or anything else?
Okay, so that's a great question. So there are three events that happen in kite surfing. So one is big air, which is basically who can jump the highest. So here right now the maximum records are 43 meters and so on. So that is one event, which is how high can you jump. The second one is freestyle. So this is where you're graded on your tricks. So you do a trick, and a group of three judges will give you points based on that. And the third one is slalom. This is speed kiting. This is about how fast can you go in a minute. And these are the three broad categories of kiting. And then within freestyle, there are different there are different disciplines. Like there's strapless freestyle, there's hooked in there's um, strapped in freestyle, and so on. But these are the broadly three competition areas: big air, freestyle, and speed riding.
Yeah, okay, okay. So I got an idea how it would be like to participate in this kind of sport. Like, my second question was that can you refer few channels or people who we could follow so that we get proper kite surfing?
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, that is also a great question. So, you need to follow GKA kite surfing. That is the freestyle competition that happens. Then every year there is a Red Bull King of the Air that happens in South Africa in Cape Town. That is one of the biggest events in kite surfing. It's what everyone prepares for all year, and it's really fun to watch. So those are the two events to watch out for: the GKA Freestyle World Championships and the Red Bull King of the Air. Um, Besides that, there are just too many kite surfers to name, but my favorite ones right now, if you go, I love strapless. So Me Too Montero, Aduri Cornell, um, these are there's just Ayrton Consolini. There are just so many names, and then of course in King of the Air, there's just way too many names to name here. So maybe I will just list out a few names and perhaps put it at the end of this chat that you guys can go look up on Instagram. And they're the top pioneers in the sport.
Yeah, actually, that would be great if you could like give us top few because because there are a lot of names and like yeah, so it would be great if you'd be able to put on the
No,
list.
absolutely. I know what you mean. I'll drop a few links to the top athletes, the pros, and that'll
Yeah,
help you get into it.
yeah, sure. Actually, we have made a unique channel for kite surfing on the server. Drop those links over there. Then everyone could refer it in future as well.
Definitely.
Yeah, so
Uh,
one, yeah, yeah, go ahead, my bad.
no, no, I was just saying I'll do that. I'll drop the links, and whenever there's events and all coming up, I can put it up so whoever's interested can go have a look.
Yeah, definitely. So one last question that I wanted to actually for this question I might, but this is just because I particularly face this problem, so I wanted to ask you this thing that a lot of our generation has spectacles, like they have numbers. So do you think that this is a major problem when it comes to kite surfing, or it can be taken care of?
No, absolutely, you can take care of it. I've taught two people who've had glasses, and it's really not a problem. You can wear, like, if in really intense cases, if you are really uh, concerned about it, you can also just wear lenses and then wear a scuba mask on top of it, and you're completely protected. So we've never had to do that, but just saying that that's an option for the most paranoid person in the room. But otherwise, it's not really. It should that should not be That should not be holding you back at all. And of course, there's lenses, and you can, for the most part of it, you can wear your glasses. It's only like a day or two where you have to keep them off and you do lenses. But otherwise, it's really not a factor that will hold you back.
Actually, I'm so happy to hear that, that I can try this out.
No,
That
absolutely, 100%.
bro, I'm sure if I come in South ever again, then I'm surely coming to block and the places you refer.
Yeah, you have to, because it's one of the best kept secrets in India.
Yeah, I'll surely want to explore the sport.
Absolutely. Look forward to having you down here, teaching you how to kite. So do give us a call when you're heading down here.
Yeah, sure, 100%.
Lovely, lovely.
Okay, so we are done with the questions. Now it's time to end this conversation. What a lovely conversation it was. I would say it was an experience, not a conversation at all. And Ishan, like it reflects in you the amount of love you have for this sport, the way you look at living life. It's really inspiring, and this is what people should look forward in today's day and age, where they are just busy in the rat race. So that was really, really inspiring and motivating, educative. Every word is less for this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we would remember this conversation for our entire lives. Thank you, Ishan. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you so much. It was really fun chatting. Uh,
Same,
if
same.
anyone's into kiting on the back of this, then I'll be more than happy.
Sure, sure, sure. Even our college is in Chennai, so because of the lockdown, we are not going back. But if we come back, definitely we'll give you a call, and this will be our on to-do list to go and learn skydiving from you. Sorry, kite
Absolutely.
surfing. Sorry.
Kite surfing, kite surfing.
Yeah.
Oh man, lovely, lovely. That sounds great. I can't wait. Super excited.
Okay, sure, sure. Thank you so much, Ishan. So we'll be signing off now. Thank you everyone for joining to the Adventure Hub podcast. We'll be seeing you soon. Thank you guys.